All right, so round 3 now of OLS is going to be WhatAmI versus Navarro here. And again, WhatAmI, a previous, or the most recent Fight Night winner, I should say, bringing what looks to be the same lineup. Fight Night only a 2-deck tournament, so did bring one additional deck as well. But both decks from Fight Night, WhatAmI running here in this 3-deck, 1-band format. So again, good to see the competitors here from many of the other larger tournaments around the Legends of Runeterra space. If you guys are looking to join this tournament next time it happens, it is bi-weekly. Check out the Discord in the description below. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the game. WhatAmI versus Navarro.
Well, 5 mana cards.
Yeah, but then Overwhelm usually means your stats.
Is Overwhelm better than Regen though? Like we're not putting Garen on the chopping block.
Is Overwhelm better than Regen? I mean, I'm gonna say if in a vacuum, no. But because we're in an environment where burn is a thing, I think that Overwhelm is actually better right now, anyways.
I don't know, because like Trundle's been really big since he came out, and he's another 5 mana card with regen.
He's got both. He's a 4/6.
Yeah, I mean, I could see something happening to Trundle. I think that's something people have been mentioning since everything came out. But in the meantime, we're not going to see any Trundle. We're just going to get a good old-fashioned Twisted Fate Swain versus Endure Spiders. Historically, SJW, this is really bad for the TF Swain.
Yeah, Endure definitely has the advantage here. We'll be able to basically probably not take any damage because it's going to have always more units on field than the TF Swain deck is going to have. We already see it starting to trade a little bit here. And unfortunately for the TF Swain deck, it does need to block. It does need to trade. However, as it does trade, that just means units are dying. And when units die for the They Who Endure deck, that means a bigger, badder They Who Endure.
Not only that, but we see this Nocturne in the hand of WhatAmI, and we talk a lot about just how many 2/2s there are in this TF Swain deck. Those are not things that, deal with a fearsome unit. That 5 damage is going to get pushed through. But sort of at the end of the day, the big difference maker in this matchup is that with only one Noxian Guillotine in the deck, you just don't have an answer to They Who Endure Atrocity. I attack with the Endure, you maybe execute it, and then I just Atrocity in response, and that'll be the end of the game. Even this Battle Fury that we see off the top is probably going to be something that's very difficult for Navarro to deal with. It does only give +4 HP, so it does still sort of get canceled out health-wise by a Ravenous Flock, but we'll have to see if it comes up.
And looks like we're going for the Cursed Keeper, possibly. Cursed Keeper, man, it's almost like a bait, kind of, because in all reality, because the thing is, when you drop the Blighted Caretaker and the wow, why am I blanking? Bark Beast. They're getting shuffled back in. That means you're less likely to draw those, obviously, for a little while. And Cursed Keeper doesn't do as much as it seems like. Yeah, sure, you're going to get some 4/3s on board instantaneously for one of them because it's ephemeral, but you might actually get more utility out of something like the Blighted Caretaker. But we'll see if that's going to pay off here for WhatAmI choosing the Cursed Keeper. I do like it. It always feels like a good choice regardless.
All right, so we do get the Twisted Fate. I think one of the reasons that we didn't go for the Blighted Caretaker was out of respect for this potential Twisted Fate on the turn. And now, things not looking phenomenal for WhatAmI in terms of actually pushing through aggression on the turn. The TF Gold card does still get a fair bit of work done. So things, you are going to lose this Hapless Aristocrat. When all is said and done, both players are going to feel pretty okay with their situations. And now we're even seeing the Flock to go ahead and finish off the Nocturne. And this does mean we're going to have about 2 units to 2. A little bit of a life advantage on the side of WhatAmI, but, not as much as you could have high-rolled into. But, I mean, it's a little hard to say. This isn't your traditional Endure list. It's not running Callista. Your early combo turns just aren't quite there like they sometimes are.
Good old Yeti Yearling comes in clutch every time. WhatAmI hovering over that? He's clearly very excited about getting Yeti Yearling. So, card's so useless, man. I want Yeti. You know what? Maybe they'll buff Yetis. That's my hot take. They're buffing Yetis. Let's see it. Come on.
Nah, Yetis have seen a competitive play too recently. We keep seeing the Yeti versions of Frostbite Midrange pop up like once a tournament.
Just to say they're still around. Just to peek in and say hi. And all right, so going a little wide here, getting this Petty Officer down on the side of Navarro. Going to be answered with a Bark Beast. I still, with the board looking how it looks, I got to give the advantage to WhatAmI. Obviously Navarro already being at 15 is pretty big, and any sort of attack that comes through is just going to be, it's just going to make things way worse for Navarro because things will die. On the bright side, WhatAmI doesn't have any refuel, or the bright side for Navarro, I should say. WhatAmI doesn't have any refuel, doesn't have indoor, does have a atrocity, but really no easy way to get drawing it right now. But the Avaricious and Sentry off the top is definitely going to help get a little bit more of that draw going.
I want to see this Battle Fury do something, man.
Yeah, not going to lie.
Battle I don't know that it necessarily is going or has to. Navarro doesn't have a lot of cards left, but we are still sitting around waiting for turn 8 for those Leviathans, for those Riptide Rexes, for things to really turn on. We know that Navarro is going to have to take off the mid game, and that's where WhatAmI gets to run a little bit rampant. But as you had mentioned, doesn't really have any draw power available to him. Now it has the Avaricious Sentry off the top, but that does only sort of replace itself. Doesn't have an Endure, and doesn't really have much, depending on how these blocks go, if there is going to be like a Make It Rain follow-up to sort of take out everything that survives.
So now this is kind of like I don't know if this was like a hot trend of duels of Runeterra, because I think this is where we saw it a bunch, but if you look at the deck of Navarro, it looks like a very standard, typical, TF Swain deck. There's one Noxie and Guillotine. This does have the 3 Fervor. This does have 3 Fervor. I know we've had issues with that in the past. He is actually running, so this is very typical. No Scorched Earth. And what I wanted to mention is, was that just like a trend? Was that just a fad because the set just came out? Hey, let's try this card out. And now it's just not going to be used in TF Swain?
I think you play Scorched Earth on ladder because you still have chances to run into Tahm Kench Soraka, but I don't think that's a deck that you expect to play in tournament.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. We saw one in a deck list, but that's one out of, however many people are in this tournament. So, but in the meantime, we do have the early leveled Swain, which is very, very good for Navarro. So things are looking okay for Navarro as long as we don't draw indoor still.
Well, hold on. So let's say you're Navarro, right? And you go, oh, my Swain is so big. Let me attack with my Swain. And then you walk into Battle Fury. That's a very realistic situation to happen right here, right now.
And there is 2 of Battle Fury, so it's not like we're just playing around a 1 of here. We are playing around 2 Battle Fury, and I think for that reason, you might be right. Navarro might decide to not attack with the Swain. But do you attack with everything else, though? No.
Nothing else can really attack as long as this Escaped Abomination is staring you down. You are just trading inefficiently. But let's talk about this Twisted Fate, because it's been on the field for a minute, and WhatAmI still doesn't have an answer for that outside of Atrocity.
Yeah, that is a really good point. And as always, we always mention this TF win condition as a potential here. It looks like it's probably at 4 or 5 right now. We'll see if that second arrow. Nope. So now it's probably at 5 if that's the case. So we still need 3 more draws. If there is a salvage in hand, that would be a level up at the start of the next turn. So we'll see if that's the case for Navarro. But in the meantime, staring down a pretty big attack here and still needs to worry about this battle rage. So can't really block with this Swain if we are playing around it.
Well, not only that, with Battle Fury Atrocity, if something goes unblocked here, you are threatening lethal.
Yeah. Yeah, if we're able to get a Battle Fury off and then allow the unit to stick on board on the side of Navarro, yeah, Atrocity is just lethal at the start of next turn, and we'll see if Navarro has something here. The problem is if we do play it on a unit here, everything is getting blocked, so everything would be damaged, theoretically, with this Battle Fury, which means now Noxie and Guillotine comes into play if we do try to go for an Atrocity win on the following turn by WhatAmI.
Well, I think the Battle Fury has to come out here to kill the Swain, just because the way that the board is currently playing out, if you hover the eye, Twisted Fate and Swain are the only things surviving this turn, and that is disastrous for WhatAmI. He has to play the Battle Fury to get an effective trade onto the Swain, and I think that Navarro is realizing that, and that's why we saw him sort of hovering a spell pre-combat and then pulling it back.
And we're going to... Okay, that's going to be the block. Yep, the Battle Fury is going to go ahead and come out. And, being that... Let's see, this is going to clear the board, right? So... There's only 1 unit, and it's going to be at 3 health. This is going to feel really bad for WhatAmI, because WhatAmI might just need to go for the Atrocity win and just hope and pray that Navarro doesn't have a Ravenous Flock, doesn't have a Guillotine, doesn't have a Fervor. And that's a lot of doesn't
Even
haves.
Death's Hand gets it done because the keg is still on the field.
Yep. That's rough.
And this Twisted Fate, it's getting closer and closer to that level up condition, and WhatAmI just still doesn't have the Endure. He doesn't have the win condition yet. Bladed Caretaker's basically nothing. This is looking a little bit rough still. But, I mean, how far away is Navarro realistically from ending the game?
How far away is Navarro from ending the game? Pretty freaking far.
Unless there's a Leviathan coming out this turn, I don't know that he's in, a position where he's going to be winning very quickly. If those are just like 3 control spells left in his hand. Oh, there's the Yeti off the Yearling you mentioned.
Wow, okay. We have seen it, Boulevard. We were talking about this earlier. We never see the Yetis get drawn. Apparently, Oriole lost to some Yetis getting drawn. So, unfortunate in chat there. But finally drawing one, not going to do a whole lot here. I mean, I guess we throw it down probably on the attack turn coming up. Nocturne, not terrible. But still really no way to get this Atrocity off for the win.
Yep, we are now just 1 away with the Twisted Fate.
Yeah, not so hot. I think you kind of have to play the Nocturne here to be able to try to pick off this TF, but you got to figure there's draw possibly in Navarro's hand at this point. Might just be able to chain the level up. Now, what would you say there? Because I'm trying to switch to stack instead of chain, but what would you say if you are responding to your opponent's action with a level up of a champion?
I mean, it kind of depends on exactly the situation. Did Navarro DC there?
Oh, that's going to feel real bad. Oh, that's going to feel real bad. And suddenly rules have become a thing in this tournament.
I'm a little curious to see exactly how this plays out because I have to imagine that was a DC. I think Navarro was in a pretty good spot there.
Navarro was in a good spot. We were about to level up that TF. So that's, yep. Oh boy, Navarro, that's going to be a feels bad. And I think generally speaking, most tournaments that we've been a part of, if you DC, you just take the loss, right? The game loss.
I think so. Past a certain point, almost certainly.
Yeah,
so we will have to wait for an actual sort of ruling on that. But I would imagine that is going to be WhatAmI taking that game. And that's really bad. That was supposed to be the good matchup for Navarro.
Yeah, that's a tough.
Or sorry, no, that was a bad matchup for Navarro. But he was looking like he was well favored in that particular game. Oh God.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Because I mean, the TF for him to be able to pick up a win on a bad matchup like that, almost leveling that TF, that would have been huge for Navarro to be able to take down WhatAmI there. But yeah, that's gonna be really unfortunate. We'll see what the ruling is gonna end up being. I do believe it is going to result in a game loss, so we'll see what happens here. I think now we are probably... I'm going to bring it back over to us because we are probably waiting for Navarro to get the toaster turned back on here for a second. So it feels kind of bad, but hey, I sympathize and empathize because I have had that happen to me before. I've had it happen during cast. It never feels good losing internet connection. It's only 2020, not 3020. Maybe by 3020 we'll have perpetual internet at all times. A man can dream, right? So we'll see. But yeah, so interesting game though for Navarro to be in a situation like that where he could actually take home that game. I mean, WhatAmI was definitely on the back foot. I mean, that Battle Fury was not getting it done because the unit, I think it was an Abomination that it was on. The unit was still only at 3 health. There was no reliable way to try to get an Atrocity off there.
Yeah, I mean, if at any point WhatAmI drew the Endure, I think the game ended, though, just because I think it was in one-shot range, and there's nothing that the TF Swing can actually do to just remove an Endure. You have to set it up for some kind of execute, and that's just not happening before your opponent can actually get off the Atrocity. So he was sort of in a range where I believe he could top deck lethal at any point. And as we had mentioned, even though the TF was about to level, we were still some ways away from actually ending the game.
Unless we had a Riptide. If he draws a Riptide, then that might have sped things up a little bit, top decking it into basically all 7, most of them going face, and then just going in for an open attack or something like that. But yeah, so it's unfortunate. We are just waiting to see what the ruling, like I said, is going to be on that particular game with Navarro. And waiting for Navarro to reconnect. It looks like the whole computer probably just shut down at this point because Navarro isn't answering as of yet. So we're gonna give it a couple more minutes here. Super unfortunate, man. Super unfortunate. So let's see if there are any other games that have ended as of yet.
I just checked, and I think one game had ended, not one match.
Yeah, so there's Zelu and Execration are actually 1-1 right now. And we just saw it last round. Zelu taking on his opponent, going for an hour-long game one. And Fresh Lobster and Swim were both not involved in this game, I promise. So, wow. It's been an interesting day, to say the least, as far as some of these games are concerned. Gonna need to lengthen this rule book a little bit on how to deal with some of these problems. But we'll get through it. So, what are your thoughts? Do you think they'll affect on the patch on Tuesday? You think they'll do something about They Who Endure again? I don't really think it's that strong right now. I think it's fine. Yeah,
the deck is like nowhere.
Yeah, I think it's it's okay. I mean, it's an aggressive deck, but
it's an aggro deck that doesn't have a great Lee Sin matchup, which is why we saw it fall off for Nightfall. And I think one of the reasons that we saw a big sort of rise in Nightfall was like in a previous 3 aggro lineup, you were generally bringing. It was always like some kind of Noxus aggro and then Scouts and then Endure. Yep. Because Endure was just a really solid deck for a really long time. Now, it doesn't pair as well into the meta. It's not the favorite Shadow Isle Failure deck, and I think that if they are looking to target that regional combination, it's going to either be in the form of Ramp or Trundle.
Yeah, and I, now that you mentioned Trundle too, I am going to be interested to see what they do about Trundle, if anything, because it's interesting because I do like what he does for Ramp in general. I mean, we're seeing a ton of Ramp. We have War Mothers, we have TLC. These decks are successful, but are they too successful? But on the flip side, they are also successful, I think, because of their ability to deal with something like a Lee Sin, with Frostbite, with Vengeance, and all those removal options.
They're flexible.
Yeah, they're flexible. They actually, but that's really just because of the strength of, as we said before, Freljord and Shadow Isles. So I do think this all still ultimately revolves around Lee Sin. So I'm curious, like, if Lee Sin was changed, would War Mothers and TLC still be super, super strong? Be interesting to see, but I don't know. We'll find out Tuesday. I'm super excited for this patch. God,
I mean, my answer is going to be yes, because they were popular before Lee Sin was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, like we mentioned before, War Mother's been around since closed beta. It's probably one of the first decks that was ever made, to be honest with you. I
mean, after the Lee Sin rework, before we got a bunch of Lee Sin decks, like during the Ascent of Targon qualifier and things like that, we were typically seeing Shen Fiora, War Mothers, and Twisted Fate Swain as like the most popular lineup. So even before the Lee Sin sort of rose to prominence, it was still the solid Shadow Isle Failure deck of the meta.
All right, and yeah, it does look like we've confirmed that is going to go ahead and be a game loss. So once we do get back into game 2 here, I'll be sure to bring it back up on the stream for everybody. Unfortunately, not a thing yet. We still are waiting.
They actually are getting the challenge.
Oh, there we go. Looks like the challenge is going through. So we're going to go ahead and get going here in just a second. I mean, on the bright side, Navarro still does have 2 chances to win, right? So. Yeah. All is not lost. It's just an uphill battle. It's fine.
Baraka Kench was what was banned. We don't even get to see it, SJW.
Yeah. Oh, what the heck? On a side note, I love that Get Excited is the picture of the deck. That's pretty cool.
So I think we had mentioned this before. I finally figured out how to get a spell as the thing for your deck, because you can't just pick it. It doesn't pop up on the options to give you to have a spell be your thing instead of a unit. And it turns out if you build your deck as all spells, then you can put a spell as the picture. And then you just go back and edit the deck after the fact to put in all your shit.
Oh, really? That's kind of...
Yeah, it is like a weird little workaround.
Oh, okay. Well, because didn't they originally add that in, that you could change it to a spell?
I don't know, because every time I go through it, it's every unit in the region.
Well, you know what's funny? You can see how kind of half-assed it is, too, if you look at the picture.
Where it's still got the circle.
Yeah, it's still the circle without the... So I'm sure they'll fix that at some point as far as the graphics are concerned. But, so yeah, all right. We are getting into game 2 now of WhatAmI and Navarro. Again, for those just joining, just as an update, we did unfortunately have a disconnect on the side of Navarro, who did look like... I mean, he looked like he was in control of that game versus the They Who Endure deck, but instead we're going to get a completely different matchup here. We have, instead of the TF Swain They Who Endure, we have the Lee Sin, typical Lee Sin, a little bit different from the first round today, versus good old discard aggro.
And this is pretty discard favored.
I mean, well, it all depends, right? I mean, if we get some Eye of the Dragons down, anything is possible here as far as the Lee Sin deck is concerned. I feel like there are plenty of ways that Lee Sin can deal with aggro, but again, it's just about aggro actually being able to curve out and draw well in these first few turns. I feel like discard aggro inherently is always a risk, right? Like, You can draw so bad. Like right now, we have a Draven and a Jinx. Pretty sure this is the exact hand that you want. I mean, this is great. You're going to be able to get a Spinning Axe. You'll have the Jinx down. You can use the Spinning Axe to discard something. You even have a Vision to discard. Like, this is a great hand.
It's wild to me that you're singing the praises of this hand that has no 1-drops in one of the fastest aggro decks of the format. You're like, yeah, who needs turn 1?
I know there's no 1-drops, but honestly, I still love this hand. I mean,
oh yeah, no, this hand's great.
Yeah, it does feel bad as any sort of aggro deck to not have a 1-drop, but listen, you got a Jinx, you don't need no stinking 1-drop, all right? 1-drops are, they're overrated, all right? Actually, they're not. 1-drops are amazing, but,
I hate 1-drops.
Wait, you mean 1 mana 2/2s?
I hate 1 manas.
Period.
Let me just come into the game on turn 3.
I hate top decking 1 mana units on turn 12. Like,
yeah, that's why I hate them so much. I'm a man who plays to turn 12.
All right, so then we have Eye of the Dragon. Like I mentioned, is coming down. So it does look like Navarro does have some options to deal with some of this early aggression, but honestly, I'm not seeing Navarro being able to counter something like Draven into Jinx on turn 4. We might not even get Jinx. We might get, this Battlecaster down first with an Axe, discarding something like the Flame Choppers. Then we even have the Vision. So, I mean, there's a lot of different options here for WhatAmI. I really don't think the Jinx is coming down because I feel like there's way too big of a hand for Jinx to come down this early.
So if you really want to go sort of as aggro as possible, you can play the Battlecaster and the Flame Chompers and the Jury Rig, and then Spinning Axe to discard the Vision.
Yeah.
Give you 2 attack on everything that's going in that turn. Oh, Spacey Sketcher number 2. We still haven't seen what came off of this first Spacey Sketcher, and at this point, yeah. I'm sort of inclined to say it's not a unit.
Probably Crescent Strike. And I think that's exactly why. Seeing that second Spacey Sketcher, I think that's why we're going to see WhatAmI just go in for the attack here.
A little surprised not to see the Jury Rig come down.
Yeah, actually, I got to agree. I mean, we could still see it. Oh, no, we can't. No, the attack's already set it, so it won't matter if it comes down now. But, yeah, I do think that's a little bit weird. That would have just been some additional chip damage there. I don't know if he's now realizing it. But we are still going to get the Vision, which is going to be really nice here. Going to get through wow, that is a whole lot of extra damage. We're talking 8. That means on going into turn 5, Navarro is going to be on 10 health, which is going to feel really good for WhatAmI. And we still have a Jinx to go ahead and fall back on here. Even a second Draven if we need it with this Whirling Death in hand.
The second Draven in the Whirling Death does make me a little concerned for WhatAmI's ability to actually empty their hand.
Yeah.
Theoretically, we'll be able to get it done next turn, especially now that the Zed is on field. They are going to be inclined to attack, thinking that you're not going to be able to block. We do have to be cognizant of the possibility of a Nopify down onto this Draven's Whirling Death, though. It could really change things up. But outside of that, I think now with the Zonite Urchin pickup, WhatAmI should be able to empty the hand this turn.
I think he might still be 1 off. I don't know if I'm looking at the order correctly. If you play Jinx, you play the Zonite Urchin, you discard, let's say, the Whirling Death, then you play the... you'll be able to play the Jury Rig. So he can do it if he actually plays the Jury Rig and spends the mana on it, which would be able to go ahead and level up the Jinx. That means we're drawing 2 next turn.
So I was thinking you spend your 3 spell mana on the Whirling Death, then you play Jinx and discard something to an Axe, and then play Zonite Urchin.
Oh, okay, yeah. If we go into combat and we can actually get this Whirling Death off, then definitely. Kind of feels awkward playing Whirling Death on an Ephemeral, but looks like we aren't going to go that route. We are just going to play the Jury Rig for the block here to avoid the Zed level.
Yeah, it would have had to have been a block with a unit onto the Zed and then Whirling Death the Zed. Try to get that, or, you can block the Ephemeral, whatever. It's just a matter of, the Nopify is really big in that situation.
Looks like chat agrees with you on 1-drops, by the way. 1-drops are a crutch.
We've got some smart people in chat.
And there it is. There is what we were just talking about. The hand is empty. That means Jinx is online. And, Navarro does have 5 mana, but the thing with Ionia and Targon, there is really not a whole lot of removal in those regions. So there's a good chance this Jinx is just going to stick to the board, and it looks like it will.
Yeah, especially since we are no longer on Navarro's attack. Oh,
Okay,
This is why
that's bad.
you don't run Captain Farron. This is one
Oh, now we're not a fan of Captain Farron, huh?
No, I'm still a fan of it. It's just this is the situation where it can bite you in the ass. There's not a lot of them, but this is one.
Well, I don't think it's gonna matter.
It might not.
I mean, we're opening up for a pretty big attack here, and
Oh no, it doesn't matter unless you stun the Draven.
yeah.
Oh, okay, no, Hush onto the Jinx. That's going to be just as good. And now we're so glad we have this Farron.
Yeah, now we want the Farron. So all right. So in this particular situation, because I haven't seen a whole lot of Farron being played in the discard aggro until lately, I actually love Farron now for this reason, because you do always have the option to discard it because it's you know a discard aggro deck, and then the second you no longer want to discard it, it becomes the best card in your hand. Which is amazing. So I actually love this card. I'm so happy to see it in something like discard aggro. God, I can't speak enough to this card's buff way back in the day. And again, yeah, like you were saying about certain one cards feeling like they have big impacts in games, I think Farron is another one of those, right? You know, you play it in something like mid-range Frostbite, has a huge impact. You play it in something like Pirate aggro, has a huge impact. And even now, seeing it in discard aggro, turn 8, this bad boy comes down. Unless your opponent is open attacking on the following turn for the game, you are probably going to win with Farron on turn 8.
You want to know a fun fact about Captain Farron?
Oh, wait. Do I know this one? I think I know what you're going to say.
I don't think so.
What is it?
So it's something that I noticed when I was doing that Vladimir video. I had to look through a bunch of old patches to figure out like when things happened. Farron has given you 3 decimates longer than he has replaced your hands with decimates.
Wait. What? Wait, did he give 3 decimates when he first got released?
No, he got changed back in like April though.
Oh yeah, he got changed before the game's official release.
It's been like 6 months at this point that he has given you 3 decimates rather than replacing your hand with them.
Yeah.
Which is just like insane to me, because I feel like when we talk about Farron, it still feels like a pretty recent change in our minds.
Well, yeah, and I think, you know, we've both been playing this game so long, me especially.
Forever.
I mean, I've been playing this since... Have you played since closed beta or open beta?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when we think about closed beta, like we think about these changes that were made back in closed beta, a lot of the times I find myself having to explain to people, like Chad will be like, what? This card did this? Like, what do you mean Pot of Greed wasn't banned? Like, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. This card was insane before. Like, and it's just really interesting, all the changes that have been made. Same thing with like Hearthstone. When I look back the early days of Hearthstone, it's insane some of the changes that have been made, but all for the better. At least we like to think so, or convince ourselves.
I remember trying to tell, like, anytime people would ask me, like, oh, what do I use to climb to Masters back in, like, open beta? I'd be like, yo, play this new Elnuk Ezreal deck. And they're like, why? I'm like, you remember how Chillwind Yeti was really good? Well, now you get to, like, coin flip into 3 Chillwind Yeti.
Yeah. Oh, God, Freeze Ezreal was amazing back then. High-rolling Elnuk for a full board of Elnuts feels so good, man. So good. Elnut. But there is the Farron that we were talking about. These Dragonlings aren't going to be worth much at all. So I imagine we're just talking to attack.
I would attack with the Farron.
Oh yeah, the Farron. Oh yeah, and the Farron will do. Can you kill the Farron? So it won't matter. It actually doesn't matter. Even if you might as well just attack with the Farron.
Just because I am 1 damage off of double decimate for lethal, I really want to go in with this Farron. I mean, even if the Lee Sin gets barrier, that's resources out of my opponent's hand. It's probably just gonna get. I mean, even if it gets blocked with a Dragonling, that does mean that I only need 1 decimate for the lethal, as I will push through, 5 damage, I think, when all is said and done? It's 7 and then 2 lifesteal. So yeah, my opponent will be at 4.
I think the consideration is there a world in which if your opponent kills the Farron, like blocking with the Lee Sin, let's say, and like, I don't know, 2 Pale Cascades and a spell to level it up, and then would that then put you in a position where you might die next turn to a Lee Sin Dragon's Rage plus a wide board attacking?
I don't think so. Not with Jury Rig and Burst Speed Flame Chompers available to you.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, having those 2 extra blockers, I think you're A-okay. And it looks like Navarro doesn't even have that anyways, as he's not lining up this Lee Sin as a blocker. Or does he? Maybe he's just sacrificing the goat.
So how does the interaction work out if you block with... Actually, it doesn't matter too much. Never mind.
No, I want to know.
Basically, Lifesteal and Overwhelm go at the same time, right? Effectively, if I'm attacking with Farron and you're blocking with a Lifesteal unit and the Overwhelm kills you, you don't die, right? Because the Lifesteal happens at the same time.
So, okay. I think it's funny that you mentioned this. I literally was thinking the same thing during a game I played the other day because I had that interaction. And I was watching the numbers as they popped up, like if one was over the other in the interface. From how that interacted, I believe that the person with the attack token who is striking, regardless of like quick attack, obviously, that happens first, and then the lifesteal happens immediately after. So I think that the overwhelm would go through first. But again, as always,
I don't think it kills you though. Like even if it sets you to 0, I think it technically happens simultaneously. It just can't happen simultaneously visually.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So yep. So if it was a killing strike, then you wouldn't actually die. It'll just go down to 0, then you'll see the +2. So
now this should be lethal. Even if Navarro's last card is deny, we do get down 2 decimates this turn. We have enough blocks that Lee Sin can't get high enough. That is just going to be the discard aggro. And WhatAmI taking the match over Navarro here in round number 3.
Wow, and still feels a little bad that Navarro went ahead and got disconnected there a little bit earlier. It's rip, unfortunately. So let's go ahead and see what the standings look like, though, and where we are at in round 3. Wow, was that the first game to finish?
That would surprise me, but only a little bit.
Maybe I just have to refresh.
It is close to being the first one to finish.
Wow, okay. Yeah, no, it is, because Zelu and Execration, unless you're seeing something different.
Nope.
All right, so let's go ahead. It looks like Gavone and Maxter are still playing, so we might be able to go ahead and get into that game real quick.
Sounds good.
Go ahead and bring up this bad boy. See some more of this Lee Sin Bilgewater deck. If it's gonna work, I do believe so. They're both X and 1 as well, so they do still have a shot at making the top cut here. Although I will say, I think the person that loses. All right, WhatAmI taking home a W, going 3-0 right now. We are going to need at least X and 1 to go ahead and top cut this particular tournament. So we'll see if WhatAmI is able to make the top cut here. But as always, everybody stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you, and peace out.